Hello guys, my name is Desmond and I welcome you to my lesson for today where we'll be looking at your mathematics part of paper 2. So ladies and gentlemen, please do allow me to say it is very much important that I say it is very, very much important because what I'm about to say is massively. Hey, massively important, ladies and gentlemen, that I say a day without learning something new, it's a day wasted. By so saying, please make sure that by the end of each and every lesson that I conduct, you learn something new. Very, very much important, ladies and gentlemen, over there. I'm pretty much sure that each of you guys are able to see over there. And most importantly, you can clearly hear me when I speak. So remember, guys, we did send some information in the group, which is exactly what we'll be doing in today's lesson. I hope you guys got that question paper, which is what we'll be doing in today's lesson. So as you can see over there, I've got a drawing of which I'm going to quickly read through the given statement in relation to that drawing. So can someone just indicate if you are able to clearly see on the screen? Let me just try to rotate so that I can zoom in. I just want to make sure that all of you guys are able to clearly see over there. Can someone indicate, is it clear? Can you guys see the text over there?
It is clear.
Okay, 100%. So what I'm going to do is to quickly read through the given statement, do a bit of an interpretation of that given diagram. And then from there, what we'll be doing is to go through each of those questions. And most importantly, guys, just make sure that in case if you've got a question, you are welcome to interrupt and ask the question. But most importantly, if I'm the one who's asking a question, just make sure to firstly mention your name and I will recognize you. So the reason to that is to avoid having multiple response at once. So just in case if you know the answer, just mention your name and then I will choose from the names mentioned. Okay, so question number 1, it reads as follows. In the diagram below, we've got P, which is a point having the coordinates of 3 and 0, Q, which is a point having the coordinates of -3 and 2, R is just a point without the coordinates, and S, which is a point having the coordinates of 2 and -3. They say are the 4 points in the Cartesian plane, and that's it. So there's no any other additional information. It's only that. So maybe to make things easy for us, let's try to populate all of that information. So they said P, it's a point having the coordinates x being 3 and y being 0. We also have Q. There is Q having the coordinates -3 and 2. There we've got R, but R, it is not given the coordinates. I'm already suspecting that there might be a question which says calculate the coordinates of point R. And lastly, we are given the coordinates of S being 2 and -3. So ladies and gentlemen, what I want you guys to be aware of is that we've got something called a Cartesian plane. A Cartesian plane has got the straight horizontal line called x-axis and a vertical line called the y-axis, x axis. So that's what we call a Cartesian plane, having the origin over there. That's where this axis and that axis intersect. So now when we look at the points given and the coordinates, they do correspond because on this side of that point, so on this side we've got negative x values, and there we've got positive y values. Also here, we know on this side of the axis we've got positive x values, and we have our y being 0. So here also we've got our x being positive because this point is on this side of the x-axis, and also it's on this side of the y-axis where the y values are negative. So when you look at r, for example, if we had to calculate the coordinates of r, that means we were going to expect a negative x value and also a negative y value. So just be careful that in case if there's a question which says calculate the coordinates of r, make sure to expect a negative x value and also a negative y value. Very, very much important, ladies and gentlemen, over there. So I'm not sure. Before we start with our question, our very first question for today's lesson, is there someone who's got a question in relation to what I've explained, or did all make sense to everyone?
I understand.
Last one to confirm.
Understand, sir.
Okay, 100%. It seems like we are all on the same page. So now let's quickly try to move on to the first question, which says calculate the gradient of PQ. And this question is allocated 2 marks. So for questions allocated 1 mark, 2 marks, 3 marks, those questions are not really that much complicated, guys. You need to make sure that you maximize on those type of questions. Very, very much importantly. So now the question wants you to calculate the gradient of a PQ. But before I do that, let me explain something to you. Very, very much important. So guys, when you are dealing with analytical geometry, just make sure not to confuse the information given. We have what we call a point, where a point has got what we call the coordinates. So points on this chapter are represented by letters. Remember, a letter can be any letter from A up to Z. So each point will be given a different letter. When we talk about the coordinates, we talk about the X and the Y value. So X and Y, these are the coordinates. So only in high school, we are only concentrating on X and Y. When you get to tertiary, some of you guys next year will be at varsity. You might be dealing with the last point or the last coordinate being Z. So for those of you guys who will be doing courses related to, for example, civil engineering or something that has to do with geography or whatever, you will be dealing with 3 of these. For example, if you've got, let's say, a mountain, and they say, give the coordinates of the top of that mountain. So, for example, on the grid, on the globe, we might be knowing that maybe this line represents, let's say, 13 degrees or whatever, and then this line, for example, it represents, let's say, 14 degrees or whatever, then we know this point, it is actually that one over there. Then this point, the last point, maybe it could be let's say 104. So 104, it represents the height. So it's more like you give the coordinates and also the height of that mountain. So I was just trying to explain to you that we use these coordinates to locate some locations. Also, for those of you guys who want to be pilots, you will be dealing with those, because you need to know that for me to go to let's say maybe UK, you need to head in this direction, that direction, and also this is the height at which you'll be landing, or otherwise you must know at what height you should be flying or something like that. So just make sure that you fully understand the points, and also these coordinates make sense in accordance with that Cartesian plane. So now, for example, if you have Q, which has -3 and 2, just know that Q, we call it a point, and this is called the coordinates. So if a question says calculate the coordinates of R, for example, it means they want you to calculate the coordinates of point R. Coordinates are given in a form of X and Y. So just be careful of that, and also make sure that you fully understand what the question says. So now, back to our question. I'm not sure, is there someone who wants to give it a try, where they say calculate the gradient of PQ? Remember, you just mention your name and I will recognize you, honorable member. Lerato has mentioned their name. Okay, Lerato, go for it. You can just explain in terms of how do I answer that question.
So we will use change in y over change in x.
Okay, so what Lerato is saying that, sure. So she's saying that we know that the formula for calculating the gradient is changing y over changing x. What is changing y? Obviously, we know that changing y is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. All that we need to do is to substitute the coordinates of P and Q into the formula. So between these two letters, which one comes first? I think it's P. So that means this is going to be x1, y1. Then this one comes second, then it's going to be x2, y2. So let's just substitute over there. So it's more like we're going to say, what is it? Is it not going to be 2 minus, what is it, 0, isn't it? Just make sure that I'm substituting correctly there. X2 over there is -3 minus, what will that be? Will it not be 3? I think when you punch all of this on a calculator, you end up having 2 over -6. I think this is -1 over 2. I'm not sure. Can someone confirm? Am I correct in saying that? No, 1 over 3. Yes, -1 over 3. Because 2 goes once into 2 and then 3 times into 6. Yes. I'm not sure. Is this correct?
Yeah, it's the correct answer, sir.
Last one to confirm.
Yes, it's correct.
It's correct, sir. It's correct, sir.
Okay, 100%. By so doing, you score yourself 2 marks, ladies and gentlemen. So, something that most of you guys do, which is a very dangerous mistake. We are seeing miracles there when we mark for your answer sheets. So, good people, make sure that at all times you substitute a negative value inside the brackets, because if you don't, you are most likely to make some minor mistakes of which they might cost you the whole question. So just make sure that always when you substitute inside the brackets. So maybe let me just say m, or the gradient of a PQ, it's equals to that, just in case if we happen to need that final answer. I'm sure all of you guys do allow me to move to the next question. Just in case if there's something that you do not understand, just make sure to ask that question. So, do you guys allow me to move on to the next question?
Yes, sir.
Sir.
Okay, so let's see. The next question says, determine the equation of line RS which is parallel to line PQ. Yo. Uthini examiner la? Determine the equation of line RS which is parallel to line PQ. Remember, this is you in exam. You are trying to figure out exactly what examiner wants. Remember, guys, you remember during term 1, I've been explaining to you about the cream of the question. What is the cream of the question? The cream of the question is that word or those words. If you remove them from the question, the whole of that question won't make sense. So that is the question word. That is what we call the question word. Let's see. Can you see? They say determine the equation of line RS. So that means your final answer must be an equation. Is RS a straight line? Let's see. RS, yes, it's a straight line, which means your final answer should be in a form of y is equals to mx plus c, but having the value of m and having the value of c. Very, very much important, ladies and gentlemen, over there. So, do you guys remember that I've been preaching to say always when we are dealing with analytical geometry, you must always have two things. I'm not sure if you guys remember. You must always have two things if you have to use the formulas in relation to analytical geometry. So for those of you guys who are joining my lessons for the first time today, just be aware that we did some lessons previously, and also on this chapter yesterday we did an introduction where was it yesterday? I think it was the day before yesterday, where I took everyone through an introduction of this chapter in terms of exactly which tools you use as far as analytical geometry is concerned. So that lesson, luckily, it was recorded. It's going to be posted, and I'm going to share it in the group so that you guys can catch up. And towards exams, one thing for sure, we might not be doing this chapter for the last time, or otherwise we've got another tutor, of which in case if there's a lot that needs to be covered, we'll do double the lessons where she take you through a revision of what we've done, and I'll be doing something else. Very, very much. So now, one point, remember guys, very, very much important, just make sure that you follow the numbering system used in the question paper, because if you don't, your new home is in the mountains. I'm telling you guys on that one. If the question says 1.2, write 1.2. Do not write a million numbers there. Just write 1.2, 1.3, whatever. So they are saying determine an equation of a line RS which is parallel to line PQ. So this is what you do, guys. Because the question says equation, write down the general equation of a straight line. Is it not y is equals to mx x plus c, and we said at a 1 point. So it's more like this is the standard form which is going to guide you in terms of which information you can use, which information you have. But now, remember guys, this statement alone, it reminds you of a formula regarding something as far as parallel lines are concerned. So the moment they say a line being parallel to another line, what do you guys think of based on what I taught you previously? What comes to your mind when you have parallel lines?
Grace.
They have the
Gracie, kwenzeka ntoni Gracie?
It's mina, parallel lines have equal gradient.
Yes, 100%. Parallel lines have got equal gradients. So that means, what is it? The gradient of line PQ, it is going to be equals to the gradient of RS, which is equals to what? Did we not calculate it? Isn't it negative 1/3? Do you guys agree with me on that one? Am I not losing some of you guys?
Yes, sir.
Makes sense, ne? So now, that means we already have the gradient of line RS. Why not substitute it there? As y is equals to negative 1/3x plus c at a point. What will that point be? Is there someone who can guess which point are we going to use to substitute to the formula to calculate the line of RS? Which point are we going to use?
Point S.
Why point S?
Because it's related to line RS.
Who's speaking there again? Is it Lerato?
It's alright.
Okay, do you guys agree with that statement that here we are going to use point S? Why? Because it is the one where they say we must find the straight line. So it's more like she's saying, because they say determine an equation of RS, then we are going to use a point S. It's more like she's saying if we use point Q or point P, it's more like we're determining an equation of straight line of PQ. I'm not sure. Do you guys agree with that statement? Is she correct, our honorable member there?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. In that case, that means we are going to use our point as being that. So let's see. We can all substitute. We are having negative 3. It's equals to negative 1/2 into 2 plus c. I'm not sure if I'm losing you guys. Remember, 2 represents x and then negative 3 represents y. So on this equation, where I see y, I'm putting that, which is that. Where I see x, I'm putting that, which is that. So the main aim is for us to calculate that c over there. So what are we having there? So what is this exactly? It seems like if you punch half of 2, is it not 1? I think half of 2 is 1, guys. There you still have that negative. So it's more like this is what you are having. I'm not sure if you guys agree with me. Just punch all of that on a calculator. Then all that you need to do, you remember, jabalala, one side.
Sir.
Yibu.
So can I ask, the gradient for PQ, was it negative 1 over 2 or negative 1 over 3?
Someone noticed a very dangerous mistake that I made over there. Can you guys see? It is not supposed to be a 2 over there, but it is supposed to be a 3, which means the gradient is negative 1 over 3, of which it will no longer be negative 1, but what will this be? I think if you punch, it gives you negative 2 over 3. Am I correct in saying that, guys? I think so. So now, because you want to calculate C, you know the song, Chabalala one side, Baloi one side. What that simply means is that you want to have numbers on one side. You have negative 3, then you move that one to the other side, it changes a sign, it's positive 2 over 3. This is equals to C. So what is this thing? When you punch all of this, what are you getting there? This is 1 and a half. No. Hey, this one seems like I can't work it out using my head. It's a bit tricky, that one. Can someone punch it on a calculator and calculate over there?
Negative 7 over 3.
Is that correct? Negative 7 over 3.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now it
It's
means
correct.
finally, remember, the question said calculate an equation. This is not an equation, but it's just the value of C. So on your next line, you are going to then say y is equals to negative 1 over 3 ax, negative 7 over 3. So this is now your final answer, whereby you score yourself maximum marks on that question. I'm not sure. Is everyone happy with 1.2, or is there someone who's got a question in relation to that?
Questions, I don't understand. I'm okay.
Kamugelo, which part would you like for us to re-explain?
The last part, the answer part.
Which one? This one?
Yes. How did you get there?
Okay. So you remember the question said determine the equation, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is the format of the equation. Do you agree there?
Yeah.
Okay. So now, when you give an equation, they just want you to tell what is that and what is that and rewrite it in this format. So it's y is equals to what is the gradient for
So
RS?
is negative 1 over 3.
Yes, it's negative 1 over 3x. But now, what is C?
We're looking for C, actually.
Yeah, so the main aim when you give an equation, you do two things. You need to give the gradient and also give the C value. Then you rewrite it in this format. Then that's it.
Oh, okay.
So do you now agree that it ends up being exactly that?
Yes, yes.
Yes. Anyone with a question, or do you guys allow me to move to the next part of this question paper? Magaizeni, lithini lapho or lebalekile? Are you guys still there?
Yes, sir. You can move.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let me unmute Mantua. Mantua, I'm going to unmute you. Just make sure that you control your mic on your side. I had to mute you because you had your mic unmuted and we were getting disturbed by the background noise. So just make sure, guys, you only unmute if you've got a question or you respond to my question. So let's see. 1.3, 1.3. Umnomzana uthini lapha? Out is born. Unomzana uthi. No. Is it 1.3 or is it 1. Yes, we are on 1.3 because we have done that one for. They say determine the equation of a line that is perpendicular to line RS and passes through the point that yo. Kwenzeka ntoni apha? Hey, for 2 marks, let's see. Determine the equation. That is the cream of the question. They want you to determine an equation of a line. So obviously it's a straight line. So that means we want to determine an equation of a straight line, almost the same as we did on the previous question. But in this case, a line that is perpendicular to line RS and passes through the point 0 and -2. Guys, what comes to your mind when we talk about perpendicular lines? A line which is perpendicular to RS and pass through where x is 0 and y is equals to -2. Where is this point where x is 0? Maybe, okay, it could be a point somewhere there. Because this is where x is 0 and that, it could be that. And they say it's perpendicular to RS. Okay, is there someone who wants to give it a try? Or maybe here comes a question. What do you think of the moment we talk about perpendicular lines?
I don't know what to say. So the product of their gradient is equal to -1.
The product of gradient 1, when you multiply it with gradient 2, they give you -1. Yes, I do remember this one. So remember, guys, all of this information, it was part of our previous lesson. So for those of you guys who missed the lesson, just make sure to understand what we'll be doing there, but make sure to continue to catch up on my previous lessons. Okay, so always when we talk about perpendicular lines, always remember this formula. So do we know the gradient of both lines? So it's more like if, for example, we assume this point to be 0 and -2, it's more like this is the new line that they are talking about, which forms a 90-degree angle over there, because this is possibly a point where x is 0 and y is -2, and then if you draw a line perpendicular to RS, then this is how it looks like, even though it's not 100% perpendicular because it is a hand-drawn line. So do we have the gradients of both lines? Do we have the gradient of this line and that line? That's my next question.
We have one gradient and the other one you can calculate it.
Yes. Okay. So now let's see. Obviously, we know the gradient of that line. What is it? We know it is negative 1 over 3. It is negative 1 over 3 multiplied by gradient number 2 is equals to negative 1. I'm not sure. Can you guys try to calculate the gradient of line 2? I just want to check if you guys can be able to correctly calculate that. What will that be?
I'm getting positive 3.
Lerato is getting positive 3. I'm not sure. Is that what everyone is getting, or are you getting different answers there?
Positive 3, sir.
Someone is getting positive 3. Is it everyone who's getting positive 3?
Yes.
Okay, 100%. Just make sure that if you do not understand how they got that, you raise your hand. So now remember, what we need to determine is an equation of that line. And obviously, because it's a straight line, it means it has to be in this form of y is equals to mx plus c, obviously at a point which is that point, and they've given us that point as 0 and negative 3. So, Kamkhalo, you remember, always when we want to determine an equation, we just want to know these two things. And the gradient, if they say lines are parallel, it means the gradients are equal. But if they are perpendicular to each other, a gradient of line 1 multiplied by gradient of line 2 is equals to negative 1. So already you guys say the gradient of that line is 3x plus c at this point where x is 0, that is that. So we can just substitute this in there. This is your y being negative 2 equals to 3. What is x? Is it not 0 plus c? I think 3 times 0 is 0. So it ends up being negative 2 is equals to c. So that means now we have this and that, which means finally we have our y being equals to x, gradient being 3x, what is c? C is negative 2. I'm not sure. Are we all on the same page on that one? Chinaki manaha ya kwala ko kumra season ko khone, is it kwahali likhanya ondwela ujabulile lapho uyayithola clear?
Yeah.
Chumi, are you okay there, Ngoma?
Yes, sir.
Uyayithola awuna mbuzo zonke zochimbira zwavhuḓi theri? Cindy, ujabulile lapho?
Yes, sir.
Shreyas, are we doing okay that side?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so do you guys allow me to move to the next part of our lesson for today, which is question 1.4?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let me just remove all of these. I hope everyone is happy with that. So remember, guys, because we have done this question, just make sure to try and redo it on your own. And in case if you fail, you can refer to this lesson being recorded to play it again so that you can check if you've done correct calculations. Let's see. Here they say calculate the length of PS. Leave your answer in SAD form. Bathini lapho? Calculate the length of P. Hey, do we know the formula for the length?
It's the distance formula.
Yes, is the distance from. But now, masebati yekela answer yakho insert form. Basho kuthini lapho?
Hello. Vele kusale ku-square root.
Imele ibe in a form of square root. Very, very much important, ladies and gentlemen, over there. So remember, guys, the moment examiner talks about the length or otherwise the distance, trias, when they say leave your answer in a form of a SAT, it means it has to be in a form of square root. Do not write it in a form of decimal. But firstly, which is very, very much important, you can say the length of PS. It is equals to the square root of, it is going to be x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. Remember, in this chapter of analytical geometry, you always need two things. It could be 2 points, or you need to know whether lines are parallel or perpendicular, and you must have 1 point. Very, very okay. So now, quickly, let's try and substitute and see if we can get to somewhere. So, where is P, guys? Why is it like that P is running out? Oh, there is P. There, we've got our x over there being 3. Let's maybe use that 3 and then minus that x being 2, low squared. Plus, there, we've got 0 minus there. Can you see we've got negative 3? Put it inside the brackets because it is a negative value. Remember to do 2 brackets. If you do 1 bracket, everything is going to be wrong because that squared is not going to square the whole of this, but it is only going to square that 3. So make sure that always when you've got something which is a negative value, put it inside the brackets so that you don't confuse this negative or this minus with that negative. Very, very much important, ladies and gentlemen, over there. If I have to use my head, I think this minus that squared is 1 plus what will this be? I think it's going to be 9. And then what are we having there? What is this plus that? Is it not 10? I think this is what we might be having. Can someone confirm if what I've done over there is correct?
Yes, I'm getting the same.
Yes, it's correct, sir.
So it's correct.
Is everyone happy there?
Sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, 100%. By so doing, you score yourself, let me see, 2 marks. Possibly you get a mark for correct substitution and correct mark for what is it? A final answer which is in that format that they requested. So maybe let me write that to say this side it is actually a what is it, square root of 10 units. This is square root of 10 units. Even if you didn't say units there, it's fine. You will still get full marks. So I'm just writing units so that I remember that the square root of that is actually a length. Very, very much important, ladies and gentlemen, over there. So now let's move to question, what is it? 1.5, which says prove that QP is perpendicular to PS. So iprova kanjani lento outing board. 1.5, they say prove that QP, it is perpendicular to PS. Yo, how are we going to prove this one, Bantu Bagit? Zoyiprova kanjani lento?
Rato.
Who's speaking there? Is it Lerato?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Lerato. I'll uyasixathulela noma uyenzani lapha?
Yebo, sengiza ngizame nami lana engicabanga.
Zama zizwe.
Mina sengicabanga ukuthi si-calculate i-gradient ya-PQ. I mean ya-PQ neka-PS. Mese-ke lawo ma-gradient is our times. Mase siwa-times-ile when we get our product as -1 bese sobe sesiprovile-ke. So we'll
Oh
calculate gradient.
yes.
Yes, sir.
Oh yes. Yes. Amadlozi yami avumelana nawe lapho. My young sisters are agreeing with you there. So let's see. So what Lerato is saying, if we want to prove that this is perpendicular to that, remember, first thing that must come to your mind when they talk about perpendicular lines is that the gradient of line 1, when you multiply it with the gradient of the other line, it must give you -1. If it gives you -1, it means this line and that line are perpendicular. If it was parallel, that means you were going to just calculate gradient 1 and expect it to be equals to gradient number 2. That's how you prove for parallel lines. And for perpendicular lines, we yenza njengoba honorable member ashilo lapho. Yawuthi Lerato, did we not calculate one gradient there? Makaizin, did we not calculate one gradient there? I think we have calculated one. What was it? Or which one was it?
We have the gradients of PQ.
So for QP.
Yes. Maybe let me remove this 1 and 2 and specify those gradients. Let's say PQ or QP. What is it? QP, gradient of PQ. No, QP and PS. So we do have this gradient. Yes, I agree. We do have that gradient. What is it? It's -1/3 multiplied by. This is the gradient that we don't have. So we must try and calculate this gradient and multiply to that and check if it's going to give us that. So that means the gradient of a PS is equals to y, let's say y of s minus y of p over what is it? X of s minus x of p. What is y of s? Can you see, guys? Very, very much important inside the brackets. Minus what is y of p? Is it not 0, guys? That's 0. X of s, is it not 2? Is 2 minus what is that? Is it not 3? Is 3. I think this minus that is -3. I think this minus that, is it not -1, guys? I think it's -1. Let's see. What is this divided? That cancels that. That goes once. I think we are having. I'm not sure. Am I doing correct calculations over there?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now let's try to prove. When you say -1/3 times 3, does it give you -1?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Then you just say, therefore, after you have shown this, you can say QP, it is indeed perpendicular to PS. You do that with a smiling shape. But if you did not get -1, I'm telling you guys, you're going to spend a lot of time on this question and lose much of your time that you could spend on other questions. So just make sure that you have an understanding of exactly what you need to do when you are confronted with this type of questions. So just make sure of that. I'm not sure. Wonke umuntu ujabulile lapho noma cha. Rotakara rothe.
Sijabulile.
Ya kwala koko mrao.
Yebo, sir.
Yes, sir. It's okay.
Selina. Kuhamba njani lapho? Or ulibelechi kanjalo faster mo? Okay. Sizeni. Chinaki manaha.
Yes,
Happiness,
sir.
right? Ne. Oh, yazwakala. Okay. 100. So now, let's quickly try to move to the last part of our question for today, which is a 1.6. Let me remove all of that. Let's see. We are now on 1.6. Let's see. The question says, determine the coordinates of R. No, but it doesn't matter because you can see it's 2 marks. Okay. Determine the coordinates of R if PQRS is a rectangle. Yo, ongathi kusazoshuba la. Yey. Zoyenza kanjani le ndaba le? Bantu bakithi. Sizoyenza kanjani le ndaba le? Anyone with a suggestion, guys?
Mina inkinga yethu long method le ngicabangayo.
Hey, nama ngazi mfundi. Mhlambe asizwe abanye abo honorable member ukuthi bacabangane. Sobuya lapho kuyapho. Yeah. Hey, why is it like everyone ran away? Balega ngenyawo zobili. Lerato ngiyababona bayabaleka. Baleka. Sindibuya. Baleka. Likhanya. Buya. Sinzani. Kholahano. Ngano ka re wa raloka koko morao na. Ke tlo tlusha ko khoneng. Khuli. Shreyas, did you run away?
Yes, sir.
Hey.
No, sir.
Hey. Sizeni. Outing choose. Choose masquerade. Someone is speaking. I'm not sure who's speaking there. Who's speaking? Is it you, Cindy? Cindy, sizoyenza kanjani lento le? Hey, ungathi izoba nzima le. and it's just 2 marks. Lerato, maybe let's consider your long method. Uthi senzani lapho mfundini?
Ngithi mina since izoluthe kanje uma kuyi-rectangle, shuthi example for u-QS mhlawumbe asike sifuna i-midpoint khona, i-midpoint yakhona izofana neya-PR ngoba yi-rectangle, angithi ama-diagonals they bisect each other, yonke into leyo. Sengithi mina sizofuna i-midpoint ya-QS, bese i-midpoint ya-QS izosebenzela naku-PR, bese-ke sothi i-midpoint angisobe sinayo i-x value vele ye-midpoint, bese si-calculate i-x value ya-R. Phinde futhi sisebenzise the same way si-calculate i-value ya-y from i-midpoint ya-QS.
Limzwile bakithi, uzwakele noma alamzwanga? Magazine.
Don't disturb a pin.
Awumzwanga? Is it everyone who is it everyone who did not get what Lerato was saying there?
Yes. I did not get what she said.
Lerato, I'm not sure if you can explain in English or in English so that we understand exactly what you are saying, honorable member. Silalele. Which one? Are you explaining in English or English?
Hey, sir. Hey, let me try, but English. Okay, sir. So I was saying, since Mr. D said that yesterday the diagonals of a rectangle bisect each other, that means the midpoints of QS and PR is the same. Like the value of X and Y of the midpoint of QS is the same as PR's midpoint. So we'll calculate the midpoint of QS, then we'll have the X value and the Y value of that midpoint. The same midpoint, we'll use it to calculate the value of R, of the value of X for R and the value of Y for R. Yeah, I think that's how I was gonna explain it.
Yeah. Yes. I'm not sure because there's no any other way, guys. There is no any other way of answering this question. So let me re-explain what Lerato is saying there. So she's saying based on the lesson that we had, when was it? I think it was yesterday. We also had a similar question. So guys, just make sure not to allow me to conclude our lesson for today without you understanding this one. Remember, we have a Q, we have P, we have S, and then we have R. So we say always when you have a rectangle, when you cross like that, this is the midpoint for RP, and that same point is the midpoint of QS. Just like when you have a square, guys, or maybe let me draw it like this. If you have a square and you have 1, 2, 3, 4 corners, if you cross this point, it's in between, and this is the midpoint of this point and this point, and this midpoint is the same midpoint as that point and that point. Also, if you have a rectangle, the same thing applies. those are the four corners. If you cross multiply, no, not to cross multiply, but just to connect the corners. This point is the midpoint of that and that. It is the same midpoint of that and that. So this triangle is just that it's at a certain angle. Can you see? It's like it was trying to make that dance yana there. I'm just not sure if you guys can see, but they are saying if it's a rectangle, then that means if you join that and you also join that, this middle point is the middle point of that and that. I'm not sure. Do you guys understand that part before I continue in answering that question?
Yes, I understand.
Okay, 100%. 100%. So what Lerato is saying there, she says, how about we use this point and that point to determine the middle point? Obviously, we use the midpoint formula. So let's see. We know the midpoint formula, we can say maybe it is a, what is it, guys? Is x1 plus x2, you divide it by 2. For y, it's going to be y1, what is it? Plus y2 over that. Remember, this same midpoint of QS, we say it is the same midpoint of a PR. Maybe let's say midpoint of PR, midpoint of a PR. But we use the points of QS because we have the points of QS. So let's substitute. There, what are we having? The x value there, we have -3 plus there, we have 2 over 2. And then for y there, we have 2 plus there, we have -3 over 2. So that means the midpoint of PR is, what is this? Is that not -1? I think it's -1 over 2. What is this, guys? Is it not -1? I think that also is -1 over 2. So it's more like the middle point there at the crossing, guys. At the crossing. That middle point, it's actually a -1/2 and -1/2. I'm not sure. Does it make sense to everyone, guys? That part.
Yes.
Sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
100%.
Yes,
So
sir.
now, let me remove all of this because we have our answer written over there. Let me maybe draw this line so that it makes perfect sense. We have that point being point, what is it, point P. Did we not calculate this middle point? What was it? We just calculated it. It is that. This point being point R, this is the point that examiner wants us to calculate. I'm just not sure if you guys are able to notice all of that. I'm not sure. Can you guys see that we actually need this point, but we have the middle point and we have that point over there? Why not use again the midpoint formula to determine that point? How can we do that? We know very well that the x of the middle point, of which in this case there is the middle point, is going to be x of this point being r plus x of that point being p, all of this divided by 2. Maybe let's just finalize this one. Let's see. what is the x value of the middle point? Is it not negative 1 over 2? What is XR? Oh, XR is exactly what we are trying to calculate. Plus XP. What is XP? Is it not 3, guys? I think it's 3 over 2. Then all that you do is to cross multiply. When you cross multiply, it's more like you have negative 1 over 2 multiplying by that 2. You've got x of r plus 3. I'm not sure. Yes. Then what is half of 2 is 1. Then you still have that negative. Or you can punch all of this on a calculator. I think you're going to get negative 1. Then you transpose. By transpose is you taking these to the other side. And remember, it changes a sign. Then it becomes what is it? You end up having negative 1 minus 3. Is it not negative 4, guys? I'm not sure. Am I not losing you guys on that one? I think I've done correct calculation on this one. Let's see. So it's more like there the x value is negative 4. Is everyone happy there for the calculation of that x value of point R?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, seems like wonke umuntu ujabulile lapho. Okay, so now let's perform the same calculation for the y value. So we have y of that middle point being equals to y of r plus y of p, all of this divided by 2. What is that? Is it not a negative half equals to y of p is what we are trying to calculate. No, y of r is what we're trying to calculate. What is that? Is it not 0, guys? This is 0 divided by 2. Let's see. What are we having over there? I think we just cross multiply. Then it ends up being negative 1 over 2 multiplied by 2. It becomes the y value of r. What is that? Is it negative half?
It's negative 1.
It's negative 1. Yes, when you multiply all of that, you end up having a negative 1 being equals to y. What is it? That of that. So that means actually the coordinates of r is negative 4 and negative 1. This is exactly what you should write as your final answer, but you must show both of these steps. Imagine, guys, can you see how greedy examiner is? This question, according to me, it actually worth 4 marks. You can't do this much of work just for 2 marks. So that means they assume you do know and understand very well that for you to determine the other point on it, Mandra, again, she's not controlling her mic. Sure. Okay. I'll just mute her from my side. Okay. So, are you guys happy there? Is there someone who's got a question in relation to that, or are we all happy with this last part of our lesson for today?
Understand, sir. Understood.
I also understand.
I also understand.
I understand, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the end of our lesson for today. I hope you guys did enjoy as much as I did. So, guys, thanks very much for joining. My name is Desmond, and I'm out.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, sir.